Okay, it says we're recording. So
Great.
as you can tell, I am with, well, maybe you can't tell yet because I think the screens are going to swap, and we were just talking about how we are with technology. So without further ado, this is Mel Joulwan. I will just tell you what I know about her very quickly as an introduction. When I started Paleo and Whole30 back in 2010, it was Lauren Cordain, Rob Wolf, Dallas and Melissa, Mel Juwan, maybe Diane Sanfilippo, and I think that was pretty much it. So I feel like Mel's my best friend, even though she doesn't know it,
Oh no.
because we've had this relationship for 10 years at this point, or whatever, 8 years. So I'm super excited to talk to her, and she is across the Atlantic in Prague, and that is the way you say it. So I'm just going to let her say hi and introduce herself. Go ahead, Mel.
Okay. Hello. Um, I am Melissa Joulwan. Everyone is welcome to call me Mel. And in 2017, my husband and I were living in Vermont, and we decided to move to Prague because we really, really like it here. And because our cookbook business is kind of portable, we just decided that we wanted a new adventure. And we sold almost everything and came here with our cat and enormous suitcases. And here we are.
Now, for the uninitiated, the
Yes.
most important question of this interview is, how is Smudge?
Smudge, it's great. It's the afternoon here, so she's sleeping in the closet.
Oh, there you go.
There's a very, very well-defined schedule, and afternoon time is sleeping in her bed in the closet.
I
So we
like it.
probably won't see her.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. All right. So we have a Facebook group of it's called Fabulous After 50, and we have, I don't think we have 3,500 people yet, but we're getting there.
That's great.
It's 3,500 in, I think it's less than a month, maybe a month and a half.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And who knew we were all this old?
Right?
I just turned 50. I know you turned 50 right about the same time I did. So that means you're creeping up on 51 as well.
I am.
So it's been really interesting because, Whole30, everybody seems to be 35 and kids and so on and so forth. So when we were asked to put, it's myself and 3 other moderators, when we were asked to put this Facebook group together, we're like, sure, we'll do it. Not even understanding what was going to happen. So we're totally psyched to have so many people, but we also have, shall we say, considerations for Whole30 and paleo that perhaps other people don't. But I did want to ask you, how did you get to paleo and what brought you there?
So I also started pretty early in the paleo game. I started eating paleo in about 2009. And my motivation at the time was purely ego driven. I wanted to look really good. I wanted to lose weight. And that was my primary motivation.
That's okay.
I had been doing CrossFit, and I was a lifelong dieter. So I guess I should roll back. I was a lifelong dieter. I was a very overweight kid, did not exercise when I was a kid, didn't play sports. And then after I graduated from college, I started being very active. I did triathlons, but my weight just kind of like, I would follow what I thought was a healthy eating plan, kind of Weight Watchers-ish, lots of vegetables, protein, low fat, high carb. And I would lose weight, and then I would keep doing the same things, and I would start to gain weight again. Very frustrating. And then I finally joined CrossFit, and like those workouts were so much fun. And the gym that I went to recommended the Zone diet, which is actually just a super low calorie diet if you dissect it. So it worked. And I got really fit, and I lost a bunch of weight, but I was not feeling that good. And that's around the time when CrossFit was transitioning from recommending the Zone to recommending paleo. So I started following paleo, and then I became friends with Melissa Hartwig. And she said, we have this crazy idea to do a nutrition challenge. Is that dumb? Like, everyone's doing nutrition challenges. And I said, well, if you do it, it will be different than what everyone else is doing. So yeah, I think you should do it. So I was kind of one of the guinea pigs that did a Whole30 before it was even called the Whole30.
Yeah.
And I did not come to it happily. Like I had already, because I've been doing the zone, like I already wasn't eating grains
Okay.
and sugar, and like giving up my like blueberries and milk in the morning was, I was beside myself. It was like, it can't be that. Like, that can't be the problem. Like, there's 1 cup of milk in the morning and a couple of cheese sticks in the afternoon cannot be the thing. And she said, well, can you just try it for a week? And it made me so angry because it was so reasonable. You know, of course, try it for a week. And so I did. And it was amazing. Like, my sleep got better after like 3 days of not eating dairy. And I wasn't bloated at the end of the day. And my skin cleared up. And I was like, oh, I guess it was the dairy, it turns out. So that's kind of how I came to it. And then, I don't know, I think some people probably know this story if they have my cookbooks, but then I had to have my thyroid removed because I found a nodule on my thyroid. So in the midst of like finally getting to my goal weight and being really active and feeling really good, shortly after that, I started feeling really bad, just so tired, just fatigued. Like I would go and work out and have a great workout and then come home and fall asleep like I was dead for like 4 hours. So they found a nodule on my thyroid and I had to have it removed, which means I take thyroid hormones every day. And now, like, I'm still super vain. Let's not pretend I'm not. But the reason that I'm so committed to paleo is because I have to eat that way so that I know that how my medication is working. Because if I don't control the factors that I can control and I don't feel good, then there's no way to know what the thing is.
Good point.
Yeah. So at home, we eat almost Whole30, even when we're not Whole30. And when we're at home, we don't have very much junk in our house. We do have some 85% dark chocolate, which is amazing. And we do eat rice once in a while.
Right.
But mostly, you know, I eat all the time.
Yeah, that's what works for your, you know, for you. Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of people, you know, doing round after round after round, and we're trying to explain to them we need to differentiate between, are you doing a whole 90 because of medical issues, or do you do Whole30 face plant, do another Whole30 face plant? Right. That's just yo-yo dieting. Yeah. Whereas if you're sticking to a template that you know works for you, that is your food freedom, whether it's Whole30 or not. So,
right. Yeah. You know. And I will say that, I mean, like I said, I did my first Whole30 in 2009 or 2010. Mm-hmm. So I've had probably 4 or 5 complete Whole30s in the last 9 or 10 years. Okay. And then, I mean, I've just kind of learned, like, this is what makes me feel good and this is what doesn't. Right. And now that we're in Europe, I'm eating a lot more treats than I ever did in the United States because we're traveling so much more. There's so much more to explore and to try. And that's been a really interesting experience too. I think the wheat is really different here. So
that was going to be my question, because I know several of my personal friends who've gone over to Europe and they're able to eat all of the grains, and then they come home and they think that, oh, okay, maybe I'm okay now, and they come home and it's like So what do you know what it is? Is it the GMO?
It's a different kind of wheat. I am not a wheat expert, but I do know that in the United States, at some point, it became a concern to like be able to feed a lot more people a lot more quickly. Right. So the wheat has been modified, and the wheat here is just different. It's been really interesting psychologically though, because as a lifelong dieter, one of the things that made the Whole30 really comfortable for me is those really clear guidelines. Mm-hmm. And I never questioned it. And it didn't feel like a burden to me. It just felt like that actually gave me freedom to be like, I don't even think about those things anymore. Right. So it's been really interesting being here and knowing I won't feel sick if I eat X. So how does that treat fit into my life now?
So now you've got to do the real work.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really great. It's really educational. And I feel like, you know, I have a pretty good grip on it. Sure. Travel is really different than it used to be, because when I was so strict with following the Whole30, when we traveled, it was like really stressful, and I would get really anxious, like figuring out how we were going to eat in restaurants and So travel's a lot more relaxed now, and I don't eat, I don't overindulge.
Right,
So I
right,
do feel like there's a lot of really good training in the Whole30 that helps you when you're not in a Whole30.
right, right.
Gotta
Okay.
trust.
Since I have you and I get to ask you all the questions I ever wanted to ask
You
you,
do.
I think that you and I had about the same experience with AIP because I have Hashimoto's. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do a round of Hashimoto's, a round of AIP for my Hashimoto's. But I didn't really notice that huge of a difference for all of the spices that I gave up. And I kind of wanted you to maybe see what you thought as well.
Yeah. So after I had my thyroid removed, I had a really bad period where my thyroid hormone dosage wasn't correct, and I was having trouble finding a doctor that I liked, and everything was, well, it was terrible. And then I finally found a doctor in Austin that I liked, and she really wanted to start from scratch with me. So she had us do, my husband David and I both did a full, it was her eating plan, but it was basically like paleo, the AIP, and a couple more rules all mushed together. It was terrible. I couldn't eat anything. No spices. And we had to travel while we were doing it. We were doing the press check for our second cookbook, and we had to go to Minneapolis. So we traveled for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And literally what we did every day was went to the Whole Foods, and they had a hamburger stand in the Whole Foods where they cooked hamburgers to order. And the standard hamburger had some kind of spice blend on it. So we had to ask them to make it plain. And we ate plain hamburger patties and salad from the salad bar with oil and vinegar. And then at night, our treat was that we would microwave sweet potatoes in the hotel room.
That's very sad, especially for a foodie like you.
Well, and there are such good restaurants.
I know.
But the thing that I will say is, like, it was terrible and it was not so terrible. I mean, it's just food, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And that whole experience, I developed a bunch of recipes where I was cooking with herbs more than spices. So that was really fun. And a lot of those showed up in Well Fed too. And it made me very aware in a way that I wasn't before of the limitations for people who do have to follow the AIP.
Right.
And I do kind of have that in the back of my mind when I'm developing recipes. Like, is there a way this one can be modified? Like, if you leave all the spices out. I've also heard from people who can't eat garlic and onions. And when I get done, like, wiping my tears because it sounds so hard. You know, sometimes they can eat scallions. So there's that. Like, I just feel like it just forces creativity. But I did not experience any benefits from eating. I followed the AIP for 8 weeks with no spice, and I didn't experience any differences. So everything back in.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to let everybody know, because a lot of people, with thyroid issues say, should I do AIP? And what I'm doing is basically saying, let's start with Whole30, get that handled, make sure you've got your head wrapped around that. And then if you want to go do another 30-day experiment with the AIP, then you'll know the difference between the two. So, okay.
Yeah, I think that's wise. And I think, the big offenders for a lot of people are tomatoes and red peppers. So
if you can maybe just take those out of your Whole30. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
Exactly.
So Mel's book, Well Fed, she has Well Fed 2, Well Fed Weeknights. You've got the cutest magazine that I bought from you when was that? That was last summer?
Yeah, we've done 3 magazines now. 3?
Okay.
I believe 3 magazines.
I have the last one. It was great. I put it in with a bunch of my coaching clients because it's fabulous. And I myself personally would not have been able to make paleo, much less Whole30, without reading your first book, because that was like, oh, I get it. This is how I do it, because I was going to make coconut flour cakes and things like that to be paleo. Yeah. And so your book, just to let you know, I'm fangirling a little bit, but your book meant so much and really helped me, and I've recommended it I can't tell how many times. How did you, I think your book was out before It Starts With Food, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Was it? I think it was.
I think it was because I'm pretty sure I had your book and then
Yes,
Melissa's
that's
came
right.
out and
That's
I was
right.
like, oh, look, they're big time now. Um, how did you even decide to put that all together? I mean, did you know that this paleo thing was going to be big and just run with it or?
Oh, I wish I'd been that smart. No. Basically, I had this blog that I was doing for fun, and I was writing about my adventures with CrossFit and just sharing what I was eating. Like, I'm doing this paleo thing, and here's what I'm eating. And little by little, started sharing, like making up my own recipes and sharing those. And it got such a good response that my husband and I decided that we would make a cookbook. And we thought, it'll like maybe we'll make some money to go on a vacation or something.
Mhm.
But as we started working, we were originally just going to do a PDF. But as we started working on it and talking to people, it became clear that people really wanted a physical book and they wanted a photograph with every recipe. And we were like, okay, let's try it and see what happens. And so we did. And the way I have always thought about cooking, because I like to eat, but I don't really like to cook that much, which is a strange thing for a cookbook author to say, but like it is not my like ideal Saturday afternoon to be in the kitchen cooking. I'd rather be sitting on the couch with a book.
Mhm.
So I've always tried to think about how I could make components of food that I can kind of mix and match together, because I want to eat a lot of different things, but I don't want to spend all my time in the kitchen.
Right.
And as I explained in Well Fed, my dad owned a restaurant when I was growing up, and it's a diner with a huge menu. So there were things that they would make like at the beginning of the week, like soup that would last for like 2 or 3 days. And then there were things like salads that they made to order. And then there were some things that they partially cooked and then would just finish before they were going to be served. And it occurred to me that that would make a lot of sense with paleo. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I put like in Well Fed, there's recipes called hot plates. And that's kind of the idea of hot plates. You have all these components in your fridge and then you can mix and match your meals. I don't know what's happening with my speaking. And I have to tell this story because for people who are just starting out, I think you make a really good point when you say, like, you would have been thinking about coconut flour cake or something. I had this friend who was an incredible athlete, but kind of had pretty disordered eating. And she decided that she wanted to start eating, and by disordered, I mean like she wouldn't have any food in her house. And so she would eat like half a box of Teddy Grahams for dinner, that kind of thing. So she decided that she was going to switch to paleo, and she's really smart and really motivated. And what she did, this was before our cookbook existed. What she did was she went online and she found a bunch of paleo bloggers, and she got 21 paleo recipes, because that's a week worth of meals. And she made a massive grocery list, and she went to the store and she bought everything for all of those different recipes. And then she came home and she put everything away and she lay down on the couch and she was like, I can't do paleo. It's too hard. It's too complicated. Which I totally understand.
Right.
Because if you are not a person who cooks or knows how to manage a kitchen, and now suddenly you are looking at 21 new recipes, I mean, that would overwhelm me. Like, so my advice is always to like start really simply.
We have, I don't know, are you familiar with Real Plans? Have you been on
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, my recipes from Well Fed and Well Fed 2 are available in Real Fed.
Oh, that's right. They are. I forgot about that. It's because I have them and, Well Fed's just part of my paleo DNA. But what I tell people is it's brilliant. Real Plans is brilliant. But that first week, only populate the dinners, because when I first started offering Real Plans, one of my friends, she did it and she populated breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I went over to her house and she's like, I spent so much money at the grocery store. And I'm like, what'd you do? And I went over and opened up her refrigerator and I was like, holy mother of pearl. That's a lot of food,
Yeah.
So I tell everybody now, just do the dinners. And then, the next week, maybe you can work on the lunches or whatever. But yeah, it's a lot. And, I just tell everybody, get through the first week and then you can figure everything else out. But
well, and the other thing we do is like, we tend to have like 3 different things that we eat for lunch, and we just rotate those. So we end up having tuna salad plates like once or twice a week. We have salad with chicken or ground meat on them once or twice a week. And then we have leftovers.
Right.
So like you kind of, when you're starting out, I think if you make dinners that are a little bigger, so you have leftovers, that really helps too. My mom hates leftovers. Like the idea makes her so unhappy. So she doesn't really love my like whole hot plates thing where you're basically eating leftovers all the time.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, it makes your life so much easier.
Mm-hmm. I can eat leftovers forever and a day. My husband always just looks at, I think he thinks they're all science experiments, because when I had the kombucha, you know, that big SCOBY, he was like, what is that thing? And I think he's got a little PTSD or whatever the initials are from my kombucha. So he always thinks I'm growing experiments in the refrigerator. But yeah, he could care less about leftovers. So I'm the one that eats them all. Tell me about tell us, I should say, about the three magazines, because I'm gonna put a link to those as well.
Okay. I think that they are all still available on Amazon. They are in the business. They're called SIPs, Special Interest Publications, and they are usually only available on the newsstand for a quarter of the year, and then they send them to Amazon. Amazon sells them. The most recent one is pertinent to what we were just talking about. The most recent one is a meal plan magazine that is breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 3 full weeks. And then along the way, you learn how to make your own menus and put together your own meal plan. So the 4th week of the meal plan, you are actually mixing and matching the recipes from the magazine to make your own 4th week meal plan. But I put together a whole plan in that thing so that you're cooking on one day of the week. I use Sunday as an example. You cook on Sunday, and then that gets you through to, I think, Wednesday usually. And then you just do a little bit of cooking Wednesday, Thursday to get you through the rest of the week.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I picked it up.
Oh, you're so nice.
No, it was. I sent it with, I've got a couple clients that really don't like to cook, and I'm like, here, do this one. But yeah, and especially in our group, we've had a lot of these conversations. People either love to cook or they hate to cook. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot in between. So I'm really wanting to talk to the people who don't like to cook, so that they realize they don't have to spend entire, evenings in the kitchen, because we like you said, we'd all rather be on the couch with a book. Which brings me to your book reviews, and it's just been wonderful, because I've picked up a whole bunch and that you've recommended.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and so tell us about your book career a little bit.
Well, I really, really love reading. And in January of 2017, I was a guest on the What Should I Read Next podcast, which is hosted by Anne Vogel. And I think it's a brilliant podcast. She has a guest on, learns a little bit about their lives, and then asks them to talk about 3 books that they love, 1 book they do not love, and what they are currently reading. And then she makes recommendations based on the books that they have said that they love. So I went on her podcast and realized how much I enjoyed talking about books, and that I'd never really thought about reading as a hobby before. It was just something it was part of my life, and I did it a lot, but I didn't think of it as an activity that I was doing consciously necessarily. So in 2017, I decided to be a lot more conscious about the books I was choosing and choosing to read, and paying attention to how much time I was spending doing it. And I had a great year in 2017 reading, and read, I think I ended up reading 90 books.
Wow.
And then last year, 2018, I set a goal of 70 books, because I was worried that if I did 90, it was going to be too much pressure. And I think I read like 117 or something.
Wow.
Which is crazy town. That's a lot. And then, there are people who read even more than that, but like for me, that was a lot. But I really, really enjoyed it. I read very broadly, and I was very deliberate about the things that I picked to read. And because we're traveling so much, I always like to read novels that are set in the places that we visit, because I love history, but I don't like to read nonfiction history books. So I try to find good historical fiction and memoirs that kind of give you a sense of the place.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful. And it's pretty much that has become like my main hobby now. And I took all the bullshit apps off my phone basically, and just either read on my phone or read on my Kindle when I'm like waiting in line or on the tram, that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome. You also, I believe you do, well, I know you do your reviews on your weekly newsletter, but then you also have them in Goodreads?
I do.
Anywhere else besides Goodreads?
Mm-mm.
Okay, yeah, that's enough, trust me. That's funny. So are you working on anything you can tell us about right now?
Well, we are working on a new project.
Okay.
I can say that it involves books and travel.
Oh.
But that's about all I can say
That's
right
about
now.
all you can say. Okay.
But we are working feverishly on it, and we're hoping it will be launching in the summer.
That was going to be my question. Okay, so around the summer, we should be looking for you to tease us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. I talked about your AIP experiment. Why don't, this is really a horrible question to ask, but let's talk about being 50.
Yeah, let's do it.
How is that working for you?
Well, so emotionally, I think it's really challenging to be 50 because I don't know what 50 is supposed to feel like, but I don't feel 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what I mean by that, except to say I don't feel old, I guess. So I have never read any Ray Bradbury, but I just finished reading Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is a Bradbury novel.
Yeah.
And in it, there's a character named Charles Holloway. And throughout the book, he is routinely referred to as old man. He's an old man with a young son. And about halfway through the book, you finally find out how old he is. Now, keep in mind that the book is set in the 1920s.
Okay.
So ideas about what old was very different than it is now. He's 54.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
So there's that. Physically, I still get my period every 26 days.
Oh, wow.
Never missed one. Still going like I can be like, oh, I feel like I might be getting PMS. And then I look at my Clue app and they're like, yes, your PMS is starting today. So I'm still regular as clockwork, which is crazy town because I'm going to be 51 in May.
Yeah.
So I guess good.
I guess because I haven't in probably 2 years, and all my labs show I'm done. And I mean, okay, I haven't had kids, so I knew I was going to come early, but I'm like, okay, am I really done? And am I a crone at 50? You know, I'm like, every once in a while, I'm like, I don't miss it per se, but then I'm like, oh, okay, what does that mean for the end era? So, but yeah.
Right? It's weird.
It is. But let me just tell you, I am so excited that you guys moved to Europe. And are you guys, I mean, I just think that's so awesome. My husband and I, you want to speak about crazy town, here you go. We live in a 2,600 square foot house. It's way too big for the two of us and our 2 dogs. And we have a bus, and we're thinking about taking off in the bus.
Yes.
Which feels just as crazy as moving to Europe, I'm sure. And we're trying to figure out how to get all that together. But how did you guys just say, screw it, we're going, and just start selling everything? Or did you play with it for a while? I guess I want to say, I mean, I know you're not retired, so to speak, but how do you, it's a different time in your life, and you've got to make big decisions. And how did you get there, and how's it going?
Yeah, so we had the idea that we wanted to live in Europe and like really committed to it, I would say in about 2011.
Oh, okay.
But we were working on putting out Well Fed 2. And we knew we had to finish that book and then start the process of like selling our stuff and figuring out how to get a visa and all of that. That was our plan. And then David, who's always been interested in cartooning, went for a summer program at the Center for Cartoon Studies in Vermont. And it was, I think, a week and a half program, and he loved it. And he came home and he said, they offer a master's program, and I'm really curious about it. What would you think about putting the move to Prague on hold so that I could get my master's in cartooning? I was like, that'd be great.
Okay.
I love you so much. Sure.
All right.
So, we made a commitment to each other that we would definitely still make the move, but we put it on hold for 2 years, and it actually turned out to be 3 years because his school program lasted 2 years, but then we knew we need to put out another book to help finance our move. And it was much more difficult to do a book during a move or promote it after we'd moved. So we had to do the whole cycle of creating another cookbook before we moved. So we did that in 2000. I was working on it basically the whole time he was in school.
Oh, okay.
And he graduated in 2016. We finished the photography and put the book out in 2017. and then we at the end of 2016, and then we moved.
And then
but in terms of like deciding we were going to do it, we kind of had the idea in 2010, 2011, and we kept coming to Prague on vacation. And every time we came, we stayed a little bit longer. And the third and fourth times we came, we stayed in an apartment and went to the grocery store and went to the farmer's market and tried to get a sense of what it would actually be like to be here as a person who lives here, not on vacation. And I will say, it is wonderful living here. It is not a vacation. We have to pay bills and clean the house and do the grocery shopping. So it doesn't have that magical time out of time that vacation has.
Right.
But our life here is great. We love it. We love the city. We really like our friends. We like the people. We like being able to travel more. And personally, I'm pretty introverted. So I kind of like that we don't always understand the language and that we're a little bit outside of, we're both in the community and outside the community, which is really interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if it'll always feel comfortable to me, but for now, I really like it.
I can identify with that. When I lived about an hour away, and when I moved up here with my husband, nobody knew me. And I'm that introvert extrovert. When I'm on, but I do need that time to regenerate.
Yeah.
And I loved going to the grocery store and not knowing anybody.
Exactly.
And now I've been here 7 years, so I run into everybody now, but I can identify with that because there was a chunk of time there where it was just really nice to be anonymous.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I really like about traveling too. Everything gets kind of dreamy when you're in a new context and no one knows you and you don't really know where you're going and everything is new. And I was just writing about David and I today, and I was like, we're introverts who like adventures if we pick the time and place of the adventure. And if afterwards we can lay on the couch and recover for half a day.
Yeah, I think that might be 50 also, honestly. I do everything in the morning and then it's nap time.
Yeah.
So is Prague, are you staying in Prague for a while? Have you guys made any?
Yes, that is our plan. I currently have, so the visa thing is really interesting. We both had 1-year visas. And then after that, if you pay your taxes and you're a good citizen, which we were, you can get a 2-year residency. So we have a 2-year residency now. And then you do that again. And if you're a good citizen at the end of the 5 years, then you can apply for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So we're going 2 years at a time for right now. Who knows? It's much more affordable for us here. Things are a lot cheaper. The Prague, Czech Republic is on the Czech crown, which our American dollars go really far. And we love it here. So unless there's some kind of emergency that would require us to go back to the States.
Right.
I don't know where we would land.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, anything, I don't want to keep you. I know you're very busy and you need to get on your couch and read some books, right? Any little tidbit that you ever, what's your greatest tip known to man. For anybody who might need a little tip. I guess we should make it Whole30 specific since that's our group.
I mean, I have two, and one of them is broad and may not be helpful, but it's maybe something to keep in mind. Be kind to yourself. Like the guidelines of the Whole30 are not meant to be a way to beat yourself and be hard on yourself and give yourself one more thing to criticize yourself with. Mm-hmm. Those guidelines are meant to be a framework to help you find out what works for you. And the minute that I realized I was doing a Whole30 for me, I was choosing to do it. I was choosing not to eat these things for 30 days so that I could see how they affect me. That changed my whole attitude. But I think a piece of that is you need to slow down a little bit, and life is fast, and you find yourself in situations where there's, a donut in front of your face, and if you're not paying attention before you know it, that thing is in your mouth and down your throat. So I think like really slowing down and being as kind to yourself as you can, because I really believe that the Whole30 is a way to be really, really good to yourself. Yeah. And it's pretty easy for it to flip, because there is that rule, like if you eat something that is not in the Whole30 guidelines, you got to start over. That's not meant as punishment. That is meant as a kindness to give you time.
Right.
To get
to regroup, see what went wrong, and then try it again. Yeah, I find not paleo so much, but the Whole30, people go through it and it changes your life. Mm-hmm. You realize that by having some structure, you get more time, you get more freedom, you get to feel better. And I think that people then transfer that to other situations. One of my clients decided she was going to sell her house and go buy a farm because she wanted to raise animals. And
cool.
I mean, these big monumental shifts seem to happen after somebody goes through a Whole30. And I think if you're doing Whole30 for the right reasons, it does really change your life, as Melissa says. But like you said, you have to give yourself the grace and just take care of yourself and realize that's what you're doing. So
yeah. And on the perfectly practical side, if you are just starting out, keep it as simple as possible. Mm-hmm. Pick out 5 things you like to eat and eat them until you're sick of them, and then pick 5 more. Make it really easy.
Well, Mel, like I said, I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you so much for being so gracious and coming all the way from Prague
I flew all the way in from Prague.
All the way from Prague. I hope you're not too tired. Thanks again. I'm going to go ahead and we'll stop our little recording.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Maybe.